Hey everyone, welcome to probably the most unusual video blog that I've ever done. Well, that's a matter of opinion. But anyways, this is my dad's wheelchair, and let me explain to you what I'm doing, and then you'll be able to understand why I'm doing it. So my dad has a condition, one of many conditions. When you have a stroke, as the doctor references it, you have comorbidities, or you have many things that can go on at the same time, maybe heart conditions, or high blood pressure, low blood pressure, several things that can happen when you have a stroke. Well, one of the conditions that my father has is called orthostatic hypotension. Now, it took me a few weeks to be able to say that. So, orthostatic hypotension. And it is something that is so uncommon that even when you go to some primary care clinics, they're not always that familiar with it. Usually, neurologists and specialists are more well-versed in the understanding of it. And as uncommon as orthostatic hypotension is, or OH, let's say, my dad has a more rare form of it. So what happens? Well, it's not just low blood pressure, because my dad's blood pressure his baseline is usually pretty normal. But what happens is that there are certain triggers that can cause his blood pressure to plummet to such an extent that that he just, he passes out. And that's really a nice word, because there have been 3 occasions, and I think I blogged about this before, where I've had to give him CPR because he just coded. And each time we were there, we happened to have a doctor that was there as a friend, and they verified that he had coded and had went into an arrest. And so we had to give him CPR. But it all got triggered by this orthostatic hypotension. And so let's talk about it. What happens? Well, when the blood pressure plummets so fast, so quickly, and goes below a safe level, we're talking about, in some cases, 60 over 40, and it just goes down, 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 down. There are things you can do to fight it. Obviously, you have to get hydrated. Some medications can be helpful. But a big trigger is after you eat, or if you're sitting in a certain posture or position that is unfavorable to it, and it can also trigger it as well. That's why sometimes lying down will help, because your blood will tend to pool. It's like going into shock, but you're going into shock when you have an orthostatic hypotensive episode. So this is his wheelchair, and of course one of the things that you can do, now some people will use compression stockings. There's a lot of different methods and techniques that we have tried, and each one of them can work. But this is something that we do, and just a moment here, I'm trying to get this on. This is one of his, there we go. So you notice this wheelchair looks a little bit different than most, because I have actually put in, I've got a small little sofa upstairs that I don't really use, and I have made this to where it's incredibly soft. Yes, they have inserts for wheelchairs, but this, and I apologize for the length of this video, but I just got to give you context. You're like, what are you talking about here? What are you doing? So you have to make sure that the feet are elevated to a proper level. There we go. And that your tail, your rear end, your behind, has to have a soft place. That's why my dad has never had an orthostatic episode on the sofa, because it's soft. So when we put my dad in a wheelchair, especially if he's eating a meal, then we can have problems, and he can have an issue. That's why when it's restaurants, or going to a restaurant, or going to a church or going to an event, that he can't last very long in a firm wheelchair, even if it has a small cushion. Yes, we go to the doctor's office, we go here, we go there, but we have to be so careful, and that can be very nerve-wracking. And so this is why we've chosen to, this is why I decided today. Today's my dad's birthday, by the way. He's 71. So we're going to take him to a restaurant. And normally when we do that, we have to leave very quickly because he can't last very long in a chair. But with this, we'll add comfort. It may not be the most beautiful aesthetically, but it will get the job done. And so I've managed to seal this up here. That way, I'm not an engineer. That's not my gig, but I think this is going to work out really well. Yes, they have wheelchairs that you can buy that are kind of like made for this purpose, but they're incredibly expensive. Necessity is the mother of invention, and so this is what I've created. And some say, oh, this is bizarre, this is weird, but I think it works. The comfort level's there. I think it will prevent some of the triggers. I will let you know how it turns out. That's really, I guess, all I have to share today, and that's probably enough. As far as talking about anything else crypto related, things seem to be going pretty good. So we'll talk about that in another video. But thanks so much. I appreciate your upvotes, your esteems, your comments. Leave them below, and don't forget that you can follow me at Breaking Tonight.